Like, I'd be pissed if I was the engineer that spent 5 years of my life developing this system that nobody even knows is there or cares about. You know, salesman's not going to sell you on that.
Yeah.
He's going to sell you on the cool things on the inside. Look at this, zoom, you know, leather finish, yellow threading.
That's where we left off last week's episode of The Jaded Mechanic with Norm Gieselman and Jeff Compton and their conversation. By the way, you can find Norm G on TikTok at Mechanic of the Stars. Just search for him there. Jumping right back into the conversation with Norm G from TikTok and Jeff Compton on this week's episode of The Jaded Mechanic.
Nissan had the little dog washing assembly thing in the back of it where you could like wash it. Like, of all the stupid things to put in a car, like, you can't build a transmission that'll go in that'll last out of warranty, but let's put a dog washing station in the back of a Nissan Rogue. F off with that, man. Like, it's almost like there's a running joke. Watch me put something completely useless into this vehicle, and I bet you they'll go for it, Stan. And he's like, they're never going to buy that, Stan. Sure enough, you know, some engineers like, hey, you owe me.
Well, I think a lot of that is vehicles are becoming a lot more androgynous. Everything looks like everything else.
Yeah.
The pricing is pretty competitive all the way around. So it is the little thing like that where someone's waffling between a Nissan, a Honda, a Kia, and they just can't make up their mind. Well, the Nissan has a dog washing thing, and we have a Shetland pony for a dog. So let's go with that one or whatever, right? Like, that, weird as that may be, that might be, you know, the tipping point. Like, that's what crazy as it is. People are making their decisions now based on that kind of thing. Well, I loved it. Had to have it. What? So when we talk, going back to the mentorship thing. Yep.
As a man that came up through a tech that came up through the apprenticeship situation here in Canada, where do you think it needs to improve?
Current tech would be a big step. I mean,
yeah.
Like in the scholastic side, I think that's a big part of it. I don't know. Like, I like the system the way it is. I mean, it's a little bit different from what I'm getting back from what I got back from Dylan and what I'm getting back from Charlie is like when I was there, you know, 1,000 years ago or whatever, whenever that was, we waited a half a day in the school learning this particular system X or whatever, like half a power through a transmission or whatever.
Yep.
Then the other half of the day, you go to the shop and physically put your hands on that transmission and see the path of power and understand it. So, and I think they've gone away from that a little bit because everything's very module based.
Yeah.
How they do the training now. And then they'll learn about something, but they'll go to the shop and then put their hands on something else.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the guys and girls who are in the industry or in trades in general learn by tactile, learn by doing, right? So if you don't quite grasp it in the school side, but then you go to the shop and go, oh yeah, okay, well now I get it. Now I'll never forget it either. Like, now it's ingrained in my brain. And I think, but that being said, I think they need to push the modular learning almost to a better place. Like, I'll say, I have this theory, and I'm not disparaging against the automotive industry, but there's so much crossover between HD and automotive. Electricity is electricity, electronics are electronics, drivetrains are drivetrains. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but the theoretical fundamental knowledge is all the same. So I think you should be able to go to a point where you go 1, 2, 3 years and you stop there, you're an automotive tech. And then you go 4, 5 and you do air brakes, hydraulics, and all the specific things to HD if you want to push on that aren't overlaps, right? Then you can become an HET at that point. But because there is so much overlap, like, I don't understand why there is separation to that point. Like, I think that's kind of where it's going.
I used to say when I walked out of the truck shop as a young apprentice where I was getting paid, you know, and I went to an automotive shop and took a huge pay cut. I said to the bosses, well, that alternator on that Cat that I was working on last week is the same that's on this Corolla. Like, it works the exact same way. The starter works the same way. The alternator works the same way. Like, so much stuff transfers. And then, so when I got my first year done and I made that jump from heavy equipment and HD to automotive, I got into second year with the class. And after I'd been rewiring trailers and, you know, going on service calls to get a truck to start and all that kind of stuff. I was way ahead of some of the classmates in understanding what electronics what it was doing. And they're like, how did you learn all this? Well, because you're on the side of the road and the truck won't start, or it cranks really slow and you have to figure it out, right? Like, whereas they were in the dealership and they were like, well, I do an intake on a 3.4 and then I do another one in the afternoon. And then, I get really good fast at that time. And then over there, he's taking trannies out all day long, right? And then the other guy maybe puts them on the bench to rebuild them. I'm so blessed that I had that heavy duty background, because nobody ever looked at me and set me out on a service call and said, get that truck started, and go, oh, and you got to be back here in 58 minutes.
Yeah.
they just said, go and get it started.
Well,
okay.
And I think there's a very distinct, like when I left Freightliner, I was awesome. Like I was fast. I could fix anything. And like we had a good crew and we turned out a lot of work, and it was like fast. And then I left, like my buddy Keith went to this company called Pentastar Oil Field. And I was like, that's a good progression to get me overseas. I need more oil field experience. I need to get away from Freightliner. So I followed him there. And I remember distinctly the story. I did a clutch on a 73 Kenworth in about 4 hours. Like it was just, you basically duck under the frame. Everything's there. Like whip. And the foreman came out and he goes, are you going to start this clutch at some point? I'm like, what are you talking about? I was confused. And he goes, it's got to be changed. I'm done. It's finished. He's like, no way. But then he goes impressed, but he goes, did you check the flywheel run out? Did you get it machined? Did you check this? Did you check this? I'm like, no, we don't check that. We just jam it in there. He goes, okay, I'll make a note of that, because this thing's going 15 hours north to Rainbow Lake. And if it breaks down, I'll know who I'm going to send to go recover it. And that really struck, like the transition from dealership to fleet, where you're responsible, not lawyer responsible, but genuinely you're going to get in that service truck and go to Zama on the Northwest Territories border to fix this thing. And I've done that a few times, not any fault of my own, but you make those drives and you're like, ooh, I'm going to make sure that this thing makes it all the way back, because I don't want to come back here. And I think that's a big difference. And I think you get guys who go, oh no, it has to be torqued to 103, right? And we're going back to that reference. Well, I kind of know right away that you've never been anywhere but where you started, right? And I think you need to branch out and do different things. And I think that's like where the trade has to go and where the training and mentoring has to go, is I really drill into and I talked about it earlier, is the fundamental knowledge of the system, right? Fundamentally, how does it work? Like, how does a 4-stroke work? How does the engine work? How does a 2-stroke? How does a transmission work? Like, if you get that, then you can sharpen in on a very specific knowledge base if you want, or not. But you got to understand the fundamentals. I told Charlie this before. I said, my shop is a great place and a terrible place to be an apprentice, because you get exposed to a myriad of different things and opportunities, and I'll chuck you at stuff, and it's like every brand, every shape, every size. But the downside is you don't get really good at any one particular thing. Like you might not do a timing set on an
Ecotech,
Ecotech or something like that for another 2 years. So you can do it again. You're not going to be any faster, because you got I haven't done this in a couple of years. You don't have that muscle memory. But in the meantime, you've learned all this other stuff and you've been challenged on other things. So it's kind of a give and take that way. But I think you kind of got to tailor it to how they want to learn and how you teach, right? Like,
so when you see the talk, and because a lot of my listeners and a lot of people that are out on TikTok, right? The Canadians are not the majority; we're the minority, and that's cool. When you see the Americans talk about how, like, maybe what we need is all we need to do what Canada does. Like, can you 100% get behind that statement that we're really doing it better? Or what do you think, like, if you were going to take it and sell it to the Americans as something that has to be done to try and get ahead of this problem of washout and young people leaving to go to other trades, what tweaks do you do?
I think it needs to be broadcast out a little bit more clarity. Like it's flawed. Okay. But when you have nothing to something, right? But you go, what they're missing is it's not just the training and the school side, but for the apprentice themselves, like we have, as you know, once they get, I'm actually afraid to use this term because it wakes up all the don't tread on me people from the States, but once you get indentured and you agree to the contractual obligation you have to between me and the apprentice to complete your apprenticeship, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to pay you 65% of my journeyman rate.
Yeah.
And then when you come out of second year, it's 75%, and then an 85, and then 95. And then I think that gets them not like a carrot on a stick, but it gives them something to look forward to. That if I do well and I pass and I get out of this and I go back to work, I'm getting a raise. Yeah. That's great. I looked forward to that when I did it. It was awesome. I knew when I got out, I was going to get a $3.50 raise instead of this. Congratulations, you've been here 2 years. Here's your 2%, 50 cent an hour raise. Like, come on, keep that and shove it up, a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? But I think they're missing that part of it. And I think the other side that I try to stress to people, as I said, it's an internationally recognized competency unit, right? And I said, well, is it? But Nate isn't anything, or, yes, but internationally, it's like if you have a PhD in economics from Yale, people recognize that as at least something about economics because you're trained from, you have this bit of paper that says you did this thing, right? So it's the same as our HET Red Seal guys. Like I use the example when we used to hire for rig crews and we needed mechanics and electricians, but we were doing a cold hire for 3 rigs. We'd pull all these 10,000 resumes in and then flick them like this off the top, looking for Canadians, Australians, and British journeymen in that trade, because we don't know you from Adam, but we know at least this much. So we go from 10,000 to 1,000, and from that 1,000 of those guys, we can winnow down to who we want. But I'm not going to, I'm not saying this offensively. I'll leave the Americans out of it. I'm not going to hire someone from Colombia where I got to phone all his references.
Yeah.
I don't know you from Adam. And if Joe Blow says he's good and Joe Blow says, then I might take a chance. I don't have time for that. But people who have a recognized bit of paper from a recognized institution that's, sponsored by the government's program, right? Whether they screw it up or not, it still substantiates it in some fashion.
Yeah. And
I think that's what they're missing. And yes, of course, the government's going to screw it up. They always do. And they do here, right? It's a bunch of paperwork. And then, even the unemployment insurance side of it is a hassle, but it is there. And it is a thing that you can utilize. Plus there's bursaries and grants and all this other stuff you can do. So I don't know. I think it's the thing that's not there, right? And they have examples worldwide they can follow, and then make it better, make it a private run thing.
And you're not the first person that's told me that they've been in that kind of hiring situation where they take a stack and they look at those 3. I look at Canadians, I look at Australians, and I look at, the English because of it's trade certification. And, and I like everybody, well, I've got ASEs. ASEs, once you step out of America, no matter what anybody says, don't mean a hill of beans. They barely mean a hill of beans in America, right? In terms of
if somebody's heard of them, they know they're not worth anything, right?
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, as a level of competency, and I'm not trying to run it down. Please, I've got my detractors that are like, you can't say that about AC. AC is a great thing. It is, in the sense that it shows a level of competency. But I mean, there's always the same thing. Everybody goes, the tests are too easy. I worked with a guy that was master certified, couldn't fix a sandwich. I get it. I've worked with licensed guys that can't fix squat. You know, and I saw a definite change about 5 years ago when they changed the test from when I took it to when now. And guys are passing, and yet they get in on the floor and they're like, you can't even volt drop a starting circuit. Like, you cannot do it. You don't understand the fundamentals. You pass the exam.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And I'm like, how did that happen? And then you talk to some other people and they're like, some of them put their kids through 3 years of schooling, right? They had them gone for 2 months at a time for 3 years. They went, they wrote, and then they write their CAQ CFQ, certificate of qualification, and they fail. And then all that money that they've spent and all that, tax dependence that's come in, it's wasted. So then they were saying immediately, like all the dealer owners and everything, the test is too hard. You got to make the test easier. My guys, I've been without him for 6 months now, over 3 years, and he failed it. Meanwhile, at the shop, what were you doing with him? Well, you gave him some recalls and some oil changes and some, there was no mentor thing. So I've seen it where even if you don't get very good mentorship at your place of business, at least when you get your license, it gets you to a certain level of competition or competency. And then I've said, shop yourself around. If you're not in a shop that's got good culture, go find a shop that does, like yours or somebody else's, where they're going to, if you want to take that next step in your career, you're going to get some better training. You're going to get some exposure to some more complex stuff. And then if you've got it, you're going to develop it. If you can really do it, you're going to develop it. And if not, you might just stay at the dealership and, sell a bunch of flushes and sell a bunch of brakes. And I'm not ripping on those guys. I was one. I did it. It's good. I made money. But if you want to go to that next level of like you said, where you can go anywhere in the world and apply the fundamentals to fixing whatever you happen to be dispatched to fix, that takes a different thing, and if you want to open those avenues for it, you're going to need some kind of, proof that you're competent. And that's, I think
that's where it's going. And I think that's where that trade ticket lands you. But I think we can't overstate its importance. I think that is a fundamental basic level. And it's, it might not be current. It might not be applicable to what you're currently engaged in, but it gets you somewhere. So if you're talking about a particular aspect, it's not going to go whoosh over their head. As a second year, you should know this, because I know what you learned in second year. You should have a grasp. Or like Charlie came to the shop as an example. She goes, I'm losing it on this particular thing. And you go, okay. After work, she showed up at 5 o'clock with coffees, a couple of Tims. I need your help. Okay. And then we can kind of get past that. And then you can drill down into it and make sure that everything's fine. But I think that should be the foundation from which you build up from somewhere, or you hone in on a very specific ability. I just don't like that in the States currently, if you pluck away the ASEs, which is something at least, but essentially you wake up in the morning and you can wake up and go, I'm a plumber.
Yeah.
I'm a mechanic. I'm a trade guy of some description, and there's no reason you're not.
Yeah.
That's where I think something in place is better than nothing in place.
Yeah. What when you see the young people go into the apprenticeship, just like Charlie as an example, what do you see most of them when they struggle with? Like, is it always? Can we say that most of the time for a lot of them it's electrical?
The HD side, like I'll use Dylan as an example. He did okay on everything. Like he passed, everything was great, and he got hammered on hydraulics. Yeah, hammered on it. Like he was here a few nights and we're working through it, and it was like me going, okay, dude, you got to give me a minute. It's been 25 years since I've learned that this side of it. Like I understand it, but I mean, just give me a minute. But I think that's another side of it, especially on the HD side. And I have to be aware of that from our shop, because we've moved away a little bit from the HD stuff. That part of the reason he struggled with it is because he's not exposed to it. It's not a hands-on thing that we do every day either. Like it's not common between the two industries, right? Yeah. Air brakes is one, hydraulics is one. The rest of it, I think electrical, if you're not good at math or, from the school side, you're any of that stuff where you have to figure out a formula, algebraically solve for the missing variable. If you're not good at school, you're going to struggle. That's just the way it is, right? But even Nate, like when I went, you had to have a grade 10, and now you have to be grade 12. Like they've amped up their qualification. You can't just be some pleb. You have to have some cognizant ability and be able to scholastically succeed in some fashion. So
now, was it Nate or Dylan that's gone on to CN?
Dylan went to CN. He went to, and it was, we were slow and we were cutting back hours and stuff. And he's like, I'm gonna have to look I want to stay forever, but I have to look for something else. And I said, the
Yeah.
best thing for you is to go do something HDE and, you know, like expand your development. It'll be only good for your career and your career progression. Like to stay at one place forever, I think that's not the rule. That's the exception. Like
Right.
in my mind, you should go out and you should experience different things and change jobs and go, wow. Because if you look at something and you go, I don't think I'd like that, or go do it and go, wow, I hate that, like poison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like once you've done it, or like, wow, this is really interesting and I want to get more into this particular aspect of it, right? So
Do you find though, Norm, that after you've had that and you've put that investment in them,
mhm.
and then something, you know, they go on to a greener pasture, or, you know, go like you did, see the world or whatever, does that kind of jilt you? Like you feel like you've got so much invested. I mean, yes, we want to be mentors, and we like, you can take pride in getting that person. Take Charlie, for example, who pretty green, right? She might be an awesome tech in 3 years, you know, 5 years, whatever. Like if she goes and takes another job somewhere, like, do you feel like you're starting all over again at the bottom, or is it just kind of like,
Yeah, I can see where that comes from. I think me personally, not to make it sound super cheesy, but like with Dylan leaving, right? Like he was very young. He was 19 and he worked with me for like 5 or 6 years, like a long time, right? And he was there through the whole growth, and now he's off to better things. And you get that kind of wipe the tear from the eye, fatherly, parental. I'm sending you out into the world as a developed thing that I created, you know? And I think that's kind of how I look at it. So you don't get like the, well, screw you, man. I put all this time into you. No, like I've raised this tech.
Yeah.
Right. And go world. Here's a good one for you. Go solve things and go do things. And I think that's like great if he stays, but there's a great tech out there now for, you know, the rest of the world to build from and learn from. And, you know, and if you inject all the stuff that we're talking about like bettering the industry and having the right attitude and all these things, then you set that loose into the world like dandelion fluff. Hopefully it'll render itself out there, right? Like,
well, so it's nothing business wise the way you did that there wasn't enough available opportunity for him then, right? Like you just, it's a hard question, or
he fell victim because of the fact that he was a journeyman. Like he was, well, third year, he was a heavy equipment journeyman. He had one more year to go before he had his full HET, but you know, he's up at, you know, $34, $35 an hour. When it's slow, you can go home, expensive guy. I'll keep the tire people here, you know, and that's a business decision. And he's like, I can't do this. I got payments. I got, you know, and I said, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's a weird year. And then I was calling other shops around me going, is it just me? Am I just the asshole? But no, everybody was dead. And all the parts guys are saying, everybody's dead. We're down everywhere. It was just a weird winter. Like it went usually December slow, January slow. And then at the end of January, it ramps up and we pick up. And it was like January slow, February slow. We're into March now. Now we're going on 4 months of like thumb twiddling going, this is impacting. I don't have hundreds of $1,000s in spare money to keep things floating around. I need to keep that turnover happening, right?
Yeah. And you didn't, and you weren't paying a flat rate. So, I mean, going back to the beginning of the conversation, right? The dealerships don't care if January and February sucks. I mean, they care because they want to make money. But like the flat rate guy that's not coming in and they only got 2 hours that day, they don't give a crap about you.
But it's the same result, right? Like that guy, much like Dylan, is still not making any money. So that motivated that guy, flat rate or otherwise, to seek other opportunities because he has needs and he needs money, right?
Yeah. What drives you nuts about how business is conducted in our industry?
Because
we'll talk about our friend Chris Enright, right? And he's, you know, he's very, both him and I, you know, have kind of dipped our toe into talking to you've seen the conversations. Like some shop owners have been like, who the F are these guys? Like, you know, one runs a really like a small shop, that is always going on about his numbers and profit. And then the other one, he don't even run a business, and he's trying to tell me that I shouldn't do this in my business. Like, you know, what is it the way that's like, go back to your tire thing where, shops that would sell that person 2 tires when one, it's an all-wheel drive and one is 330 seconds. They've had a blowout and they're going to sell them at least 2 and then not 4. Like,
oh man, like it comes down to your own personal philosophy, I think. But I think as far as the industry goes, I think we need to get back away from profit only. Like if we back away from that just enough so everybody makes enough money and you still create a bit of value. Like if you, like, I think we've talked about it before. Like I do tire repairs for free.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. And they go, that's stupid. You can make all this money. I said, yeah, but that pays me back a lot more. I think and it makes my soul happy. It makes me feel good. I'm helping this person do something. So I think, is it the most profitable way I can run my business? Probably not.
Yeah.
It does work in a long game for value creation and all that sort of thing. And it makes me a decent person. It's good karma. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of really cutthroat profit, incentivized. You need to have 4 new tires. Or you could tell that person, go, you actually should just do the rear axle as a minimum. Yeah. And then maybe in the fall, when you're going to change to your winters, we should maybe think of the other ones. They go, thanks, I really appreciate that. Right. And you get the sale anyway. It's a longer road and nobody wants to go down that longer road anymore. It feels like, and I think answering your question, what's wrong with it? Personally, that's what I feel it is. Yes, there's margins and yes, there's profit. And as long as you watch that and you're still making it a go, but you're still a decent person. Like I look at I'm very, very protective of my Google reviews. I don't know why. It's become an obsession with me. And I got 2 1-star reviews, and they're both because I decided to close on a Saturday against what hours are posted. I was here, and he wasn't here. You get 1 star. And I don't think people realize how much that affects things. Like you were mildly inconvenienced, but now you've given me a 1-star rating for my entire business operation. Like stop it. Anyway, I'm off topic, but they
should be able to throw that away though, right? Like it's like
you should,
because technically you didn't perform any work. Right?
They're mad because they showed up there and I dared to take a set. I'm very selfish. I'm technically open Saturday. Yeah. But it's summer, man. If I have nothing booked on Wednesday and someone calls me on Thursday, can I come Saturday for an oil change? No. Yeah. No, I'm not going to open the shop. Okay. But if you want to buy 4 tires, yeah, I'll come in. Right. And then I'll also book more things because I'm going to be there anyway. I'll take on more things, but it's the summer. We get 8 weeks of summer in Canada. Essentially, I want to do something. I want to go fishing, like you said, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What, because, the young lady that posted that video that you stitched last week talking about how she went into the quick lube place and she walked out with a bill for like almost $500, right? Yeah. I mean, that kind of, it always gives me that creepy feeling, right? When it's like, people look at that and go, well, that's the industry you're in. And I put my hand up and go, first of all, that's not the industry I'm in. I don't work at a quick lube place. But the reality is that could happen at a lot of any of our shops, right? She could walk in, expect an oil change and walk out there with a bill for $500. And I said to her in my response, you're not coming with anything because you're not showing, like, did anybody see the old tires? Did anybody see the air filter? Like, the air filter's got a hole in it. Well, something's been in there chewing it. So whoever wants to recommend that, I don't have a problem with that, right? You shouldn't have an air filter in your engine with a hole chewed through it. Like, I'm sorry, it just makes sense. Did I agree with the price of $50 for an air filter? Hell no. But I mean, it doesn't seem to matter how we educate these people that, like, the reason their oil change is so cheap is because you're not getting out of there with just an oil change. And it's cheap because
leader, right?
Yeah, they're using people that are underskilled, undertrained, not qualified to do squat, are servicing your second, most people's now, their largest investments you're going to make, you're leaving to untrained, low paid people that like couldn't come into your shop and maybe make it. They wind up there, So I felt bad, but then I'm like, it's just another smear campaign to say that, another shop ripped a female off. You got to come with more than that anymore, right? For me to put my cape on and go, I'm going to here to rescue you. No, you need to be more informed. It's your money. It's your business or your vehicle. You feel like you got swindled? It's probably because you don't understand versus what they maybe actually did to you, you know?
And that comes back to that gap I was saying about how complex cars are, and the knowledge base of the people driving it has got so wide. Like, it's so far removed from, you know, everybody knowing anything. And even like guys come in, and remember there was some comments on some of those posts, but I was like, if you're of the ilk when you want to go, I want to rail you for $1,500 worth of sales, I could. And the easiest one to do that in is a guy that thinks he knows something. It's not the girl who knows nothing. It's the guy, well, I know it's going to be this, and I know a thing. Yeah, you're right. We should totally 4 new tires, right? Yeah, you're right. We should go 4 new tires. Like, if I wanted to sell somebody, that's the guy I'm going to sell.
Oh, 100%.
Thinks he knows.
They were way easier. The guy that came in and used to say, I used to be a mechanic, he was the best one to sell to. Yeah. Because if you talk to him long enough, if you talk to him long enough, he'd agree to everything you said.
Yeah.
Everything. You need taillight fluid? Yeah, I remember that. I had to change that back in 1972. I've been there. Remember that? And it's like, okay. And he'd sign here. You know, the gender thing, to me, it's nobody, I don't believe for the most part, are out there targeting anybody anymore. But that particular segment of our industry, it's so slimy to me, because it's like they come out there with their little dish of what the clean fluid's supposed to look like. Like. And it's like, okay, so that's a great sales tactic. But here's the other side of the reality, what they're dumping in. They're putting fluid in that's not really what's supposed to go in there. It meets the absolute bare minimum, and it's a blend of other shit so that it can use it in multiple models. And like, it's temperature, you know, it doesn't have a dipstick. So, I mean, it's temperature related on how, you know, how are we going to put it in? You know, how much do we actually get in? Well, whatever we take out is what we put back in. That's a great scenario. What happens if, you know, it was already low? Then what do? You just ship the customer's car, still low fluid and transmission, right? Yeah. So,
for sure. But okay, let me just put this angle to you. Yes, but this isn't a new grift. No. Lube shops have been around forever. Yeah. If consumers are still falling for that, they got to own some of that too. Yeah. If you want the cheapest because you don't want the best value, but you want the cheapest, that's what you're going to get. And they're going to make money because that's the product they're selling. They've been doing that thing for 40, 50 years. So be aware. If you're going to go there, they're going to upsell you. And if you can't go, no, thank you, your bill is going to be higher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's
I'm
just
not
the way
saying
it is.
Some of that stuff, probably, it's not a bad idea to change, you know, transmission fluid. It's not a bad idea. It's not bad maintenance. Like, it's, you know, there's a point now, after a certain point, like Brendan Slow talks about, you're probably better to not do it. You know, and that's a whole other can of worms. But I mean, you know, these people that it's like, what always I hated was, it was like they would go in and it would come into the dealer and it had a strip drain plug, or like it had, we'd get it all the time, shift flare right after they did a transmission flush. You'd have to go through, do the relearn, check and of course they never want to charge the customer for that time. Just do it real quick. Just hook up the, you know, the scan tool and do the relearn real quick. This is a really good customer. Really good customer. What the hell is she doing at a quick lube getting a fucking transmission service done? She's a really good customer. Like, what was, well, she could, this is the thing that I always was like, you know, or do it because they think it's under warranty. That's not under warranty. Sorry. You know, I can remember at Nissan, we did a bunch of CVTs, and I'm not saying that putting the wrong fluid in it caused it to blow up because it's a CVT from Nissan. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah. But we would, like, it had fresh, wrong fluid in it. We still did the training under warranty anyway, because, I mean, Nissan didn't care. They didn't ask. But, I mean, really, should the technician take a hosing on what the labor should be? Because you're going to slide it through under warranty, and his labor's half. Yeah. Because the customer got it done at the quick lube. Like, that's where some of my hate for them comes from. Because I was that tech that, like, my labor was half. You know?
You do have a lot of hate for them. You voiced that concern a lot. Poor lube techs, man.
Norm, I don't like that they get to call themselves some kind of technician. I don't like that they get to consider themselves in our industry. It to me,
but I think I'll go you one further. I think the Canadian Tire is just an expanded business model of that same premise,
oh,
right? Like they're upselling you on ball joints. Like I went there with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. She took an oil change, and they had $2,500 worth of work they wanted to do. And I went back and said, "Take it off the hoist, or go show me." Well, you're not allowed back there.
yeah.
And this is when I was like 19, and I didn't know anything, but I'm like, show me. And I think a big advantage of that in building a lot of trust. One of the most powerful things that's come out to help that is DVIs, showing people pictures of things. You don't need to know what that is, but you can clearly see that is broken.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be here and it's there, or this cords are hanging out of the tire. Even you don't know anything about tires, that's not good.
That's
right. Like,
if you
I think that's a huge thing.
10 cars in a parking lot and you look down at the tires, you're not going to see cord out of all of them. No. You know what I mean? Like if you see one, that's one too many. But like the video, especially the video thing, if you can grab that and shake it and the tie rod's going up and down, even though the customer's like never going to work on a car, never been underneath the car, if you can show them one side doesn't do that and the other side does, slam dunk. They can't.
One continuous shot. Like, there's where I am. Here it's fine. And you move the camera over and you go, here, look at this one. And they go, ooh, that's not good. I don't even know what that is, but I know it's not good.
Yeah. It shouldn't do it. Yeah. I struggle with it because it's still so foreign. It's such a new concept for me because I did so many years of you just wrote it down and you put the car outside and you went and got another car. Like it takes so much longer now to document all this kind of stuff. And it's, some of the running, the way they're doing it now is like, well, we want the tech to do it, but we don't really want to pay him, and that, or
garbage.
Yeah. Or it's, well, they're paid hourly, but there's no posted time for the inspection on how long, what's allotted for it to take. Everybody knows it takes a little bit longer to check front end on a Chevy truck than it does to check it on a Toyota Corolla. Like it's, one's a little more involved. And it's some of them even become a 2-person thing because somebody's got to hold the camera, somebody's got to shake the wheel. Like it becomes a little more.
Yeah, and that's a big involvement, and it does reflect like my oil changes on a standard 5-liter synthetic with a not ridiculous filter. They're $160, man. Yeah. $165 with the inspection and all that stuff. You'll go, geez, that's a lot. I can get it changed yes, but you don't have a guy like me looking at it. You don't have the guys that I've trained how to do this. You're not doing the DVIs. You're not, recommending things like into the future.
Yes.
We notice your brakes or your air filter's dirty. Next service, you should replace it. I'm not forcing you to do it now or coming up with an estimate for $4,000 worth of work you need. Or, geez, I can't believe you put your kids in this car. It's danger, blah, 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 stop it. So it's value versus cost, I guess, is where that kind of comes down to. So once you get it, and they never leave. But the ones who come in and go, they phone, how much is your oil changes?
Yeah.
On what? Like it varies a lot. Like,
we did an Audi last week, 2 weeks ago, excuse me. And the oil was $300.
Yeah.
The Audi. And the guy's like, I've never paid that much for an oil change in my life. Well, is this the first one on the car? No, I was at such a place. Well, I guarantee you if they did it for the cost that the price you claim, they put the wrong oil in.
Yeah.
You got regular old 5W40 meant for, a Chevy, and you didn't get 540 meant for your diesel Audi. Sorry. It doesn't have all the added package. And is it going to cause the engine to blow up? I don't know. But if you keep doing it, it ain't going to help it at all. It's just, that's the struggle I get, is trying to sell that value of everybody's just about price. We're not selling.
Then you come back to using my mother-in-law as an example. Well, that seems expensive. Based on what? You don't know. You have no idea. Yeah. You know that $60 is less than $160, but you don't know why it's less, right?
But I don't want to spend $160, Norm. I only want to spend $60.
Right.
It's what the want, right? I want it to be free is what I want, Norm.
I want that for you too, but in reality, that's not going to happen.
So what's have you got an exit strategy?
Charlie. Oh, yeah. She's gonna grow up and take over. No, I don't know. It's funny you mentioned that because I started this business and it's like, what are we doing? Because if I'd have done this when I was 30, like I'm gonna work forever and I'm gonna bust ass, and But now I like started it when I was like 47 and I'm turning 50 July 1st kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I reckon I got 5 to 7 years of physically outputting myself any further, and I don't want to. So the desire goes down, the body's ability to do it goes down. The brain's still good, so hopefully they'll be, bring Charlie up, get a new lube tech. Like that was always supposed to be push me into the office, do the more business development side of things.
Right.
And then eventually some guy goes, I love what you've done with this place. Here's a check for $3 million. And like, thank you. Have a good day. And I'm out of here. Right. Like that's my exit strategy. Maybe that's kind of up there along the lines of winning the lottery and actually going to happen that way. But, that's the plan. I got to get out. I got to get out. Right?
What about your son?
He has zero interest in this industry, and bless him. He's doing it, and I like that he's there. He's super helpful. He just found out at 16 and 17 that cars are expensive and girls are expensive, and you need a job. And then I'll go work for dad and change tires, right? And then it's not his future. But I said, look, man, the stuff you're learning, like you didn't. He goes, I don't think I know anything, but you've been with me for like 3 years part-time, off and on. But I said, it used to be left is loose and, we're like basic, but now we're at the point where I go front brakes and he knows it means bring it on the hoist and lift it correctly and take the tires off. And there's a sequential order to things.
Yeah.
And like, these are skills that are not going to be wasted no matter what you do with your life. This is part of being a man, part of being competent and useful and effective and moving through the world. Like you got to be, having tool knowledge and body position knowledge and lifting ability and competency to help and how to solve problems. I mean, these are not things that are going to go to waste with anybody, So.
In 10 years, if somebody shows him a DVI, he'll at least have a better understanding about what he's looking at, even if he's not fixing it every day. But he can go, well, I can't take it to dad's shop. I'm on the other side of the world. But I mean, here's a DVI of my front end, and I know what those parts are because I used to do the brakes on that. So
even my daughter, she pretends not to know anything, but because I did like an in-house car basics class sort of thing for about 35 people. I'm like, are you going to come? She goes, why? I have you. All right, fair enough. But she pretends not to know, but she knows. Like I've shown her all the steps, like how to change a tire and how to do the thing, and she just chooses not to do it because she doesn't need to because she has me, right? So I don't mind helping out, but I said, but she's not ignorant of, like she won't be that girl from that video, right?
Yeah.
Like, she won't ever get hosed like that. She knows what value is. She knows things are expensive, no matter what it is. She'll call me and go, does this look right?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Go get it fixed.
That's what I've loved about TikTok is I knew there was female technicians out there. But man, there's a ton of them on TikTok. Like there's a ton, real ton.
I think, so why are we not, there's a woman I ran into named Stephanie and she does, she's AutoKate. You ever seen her?
Yeah. I saw her the other day.
Yeah. I just was kind of looking at her. We were chatting back and forth kind of thinking, tell me your story. What do you do? Like, what is this? And she has a really cool idea. I was going to put this to you and see what you thought. She trains and she helps women, learn about their cars and they have a very all women course. She sells memberships. Is it memberships or subscriptions? I can't remember. One of the ways to her customers, to the girls or the men or whoever for their time. So if they're out doing something and they get a bad estimate, they can call and say membership number so-and-so and so. So you're not like, I have no time for you. No, I'm a paid subscriber.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's interesting. Like if you want a review on a car or you want me to review an estimate you got from somebody else, or you want me to talk to the technician when you're in some other city, no problem. That's the benefit of paying a subscription for my time. I'm like, interesting. But yeah, I think the mechanic technician shortage should be filled by whoever can fill it. And I think if women want to get into it, man. And there's still going to be, the misogyny problem that, people taking the piss too hard or weird innuendo type jokes. And, like, I think it's okay. Grow up. But that's always going to be there and they're going to have to get used to it. And that's part of it. But
that's what she said is a great line. Like you can use it in so many places, right? That's what she said. And this is particularly, lubricated today. And it's like, that's what she said. Like I mean, it'll never go away. And is it Yeah, it's a little misogynistic, but I mean,
But
it's
having said that, the women who are working in this industry, this isn't corporate America or corporate Canada. This is no HR department. We're not gonna, we might not, razz you as hard, but you're gonna take shit and we're gonna shit talk. That's how we work in this industry.
Yeah.
So if you can't handle that
Yeah.
to a degree, like Charlie says that exact line. That's what she said. She makes a joke, but she gets it, right? Like it, and if you're going to come in here all delicate like a flower, you're not going to make it regardless of your desire. So sorry, it's a tough industry. It's called blue collar for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and I, so that's the whole thing with the females and I had Megan, and she's a HD tech, right? Mm-hmm. She was working at Hino. She's been a guest there a couple months ago. Well, her store shut down where she was at. So she messaged me the other day and she's like, Kenworth came in and bought the property and bought the store. And, they're going to use it as an add-on to theirs. And eventually, so anyway, she takes the job and she's like, I'm never going to have the shop environment that this shop had anywhere else. And then she feels really sad about that. I'm like, yeah, it was a very special thing that you guys had there. So that might have been the reason there was a downfall. I don't know, right? I didn't see the numbers, but
right.
I said you have to just take it that like everything will not always be perfect. But sometimes, this job, you've got to look at it and go, if the worst part of the day was that I got a little bit offended, but the job that I did got done and went smooth, that's more important some days than being offended and having nobody to be able to help you.
Yeah.
Get out of
an isolated island floating around there trying to make a go of it. That's tougher.
Exactly. And it's tough because it's like, I've worked with female techs before, but they weren't predominant and they didn't last and they didn't hang around for very long. And, it was kind of like they played on their, the fact that they were the only one. They played on that ability to get help a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And then she showed me this whole other network of these, ladies that are out there killing it. And then there's a lot of them that are out there and it's like they're getting by on how they look.
They know their angles when they're filming their videos. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And hey, listen, hustle is hustle. Like if good on you, but there's the double standard there where, I couldn't go out there in a belly shirt and get underneath and do. And anybody wants to, my clicks wouldn't drive right off the algorithm, right? So
I'm not laughing at all.
No, it's good. I'm my feelings are hurt that the algorithm doesn't blow up every time, but I accept it, so there's pluses and minuses to both. My point, it's what it seems like an obstacle for them maybe can be a tool. So
yeah, if they just want to be treated equally, then I think the tide is turning. I think there is a bit of a shift where, it is 2024 and then the negative side where I think you'd have to look pretty hard to find the shop that's like the guys from the movie The Mask, like the scabby backyard. What's this worth? I don't know, about $700. Like I think it's there.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't used that phrase. It's not the rule, it's the exception now. And I think it was the other way before. So
yeah. That new series on Netflix, Tires, have you watched it yet?
No, I suggested it today to my wife and she looked at me and just went, why would you? I'm not watching. You do that when I go out. I said, okay, I'll watch that.
Yeah. It's scary. Like it's only 6 episodes. And of course it blew up last week and all my friends have like, oh my God, is it ever factual? Like it's so, yeah. Which then some people are like, it doesn't paint us in such a flattering light, but then that might be good because maybe then collectively we all kind of raise ourselves up just another 3 or 5%, to get above that. And then, some of the stereotypes maybe will just go away and it'll become humor instead of reality. So,
yeah.
Any closing words, Norm, for what you think about the industry or where you want to see it go?
I think I don't know. I like this. Yeah. Like I kind of touched on before, a little more value-based, not just for the customer, but for the tax as well. Like get away from that heavy profit-driven, like make money. I'm not for that, but that shouldn't be the only thing that that operates the shop, you know, and like,
Yeah.
I think we talked about it. Or was I talking to BJ? I can't remember, but the toxicity in a culture of the shop is top down for sure. But I'm very much of the Gary Vaynerchuk mentality. If you have one guy, even if he's your top guy and he's poison, you get rid of him, because that shit spreads like crazy and it makes it miserable for everybody, right? But
Yeah.
and if that guy is a manager, well, that makes it a little more difficult, but it's not impossible. And I think you got to have that happy work environment for the efficiency to make money with good customers who understand the value that you're trying to create. That's kind of where I would like to be anyway. And hopefully that translates into what I'm telling everyone. And hopefully somebody learns, one person learns from that, then that's a win, I think.
Yeah. You've got your series that you're talking about. You're going to start bringing to TikTok, where you're going to talk about more and more how certain transactions go and what it means and how to navigate it from the customer side. I think that's going to be great. You know, like, I don't want to see more and more people getting on there going, I got ripped off again, right? Like, I'm tired of that old cliche. I want to get past it. You know,
For sure.
it immediately triggers me into a negative headspace when I hear it yet again, because it's always one-sided. You know, we never get the tech's perspective, the shop's perspective. It's always the customer. And I get it. That's where it comes from. But like,
yeah. And I think customers need to empower themselves a little bit, saying if you're mad or if you're unhappy with something I've did or I've done to your car or the situation itself, tell me before you leave. Don't go, thanks, bye, and then leave and then get on the internet and post about or make a video about how terrible we are. Like, just tell me, I'll fix it. You know, I'll make it right. That's, you know, we had
a customer, you know, we're in a small community here too, and people jump on the local Facebook group and say, oh, that shop's too expensive. They ripped me off. Like, idiot. I live in this community. Do you not think I'm on that group? Like, I'm going to see. So, you know, when we call you up and say, hey, what happened? Like, the car left, you know, what happened? And you won't return the call. You won't answer back. You sound like you're just full of it at that point. Like, we probably didn't do anything wrong. You're just mad that it cost $700. You thought it should cost $300. Now you're going to make some shit up. Yeah. Like, that's how we take it.
You didn't want to spend $700. You didn't know what it should have been, but I didn't want to spend $700.
Right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I don't like that steak costs as much as it does either, but I mean, I still like to eat steak. So I could just, I buy it. I got to just grumble about it. You know, that's all I can do. I don't have a cow in my backyard. So it's just, it is what it is. I hate to pay for things. I hate to see things that have gone up in price, but you know, I'm not going to make my local business life more difficult because of the cost. I'm gonna blame the government, like every good Canadian should, instead of,
obviously. You know. Obviously.
Well, Norm, I want to thank you for coming on, man. It's been cool to get to know you. You know, we don't always see exactly eye to eye, but I think we're a lot more aligned than probably what we thought. And I think that
I think as we kind of learn and grow and everything, we coming from a good place, and I think that's where it all needs to end up. So like, I'm learning as I go through this too. So
and fun. That's been always my intent, is just to make it better for all of us. It's never been about me against you, right? As a tech is against an owner, or, you know, sometimes it comes across that way because I seem very steadfast and unwilling to bend, but you know, it's,
I do enjoy watching you rail at people. I read the comments and get my popcorn out and I'm reading away.
Well, it's like the knuckle draggers. You said the guys that come on that are just obvious DIYers, and they get right in the middle of the conversation, go, my truck does this, like the gauges will reset and it's not charging. And I'm like, dude, know the room, man. Like, nobody here cares. And I do it the most on Chuck's, right? Because it's like, Chuck is so well known, and everybody, and for, you know, he helps them. And then he'll be in there talking about the industry, nothing to do with it. And they'll be like, I got a 1998 Mercury Mountaineer that's, you know, F off, dude.
Help me.
Like,
help me with more free advice.
Okay. Yeah, we're adults talking here. Like, get out of the room. You know, like, nobody cares right now. It just, nothing triggers me more than to see that. Like, it, as if we exist online to bail you out of problems so that you can avoid paying us at a shop. Like, as if that's why we're all there. That's not why I'm there. Not even close. It was never even a consideration. I want to help people save money on car repairs. No, I want to see, you know, our lives.
But what I do like, I'll just end on this. What I do like is when I get comments on a pretty involved diag, and it's a guy or a girl who says, "Do I know anything about cars? No. Did I watch this video right to the end? Yes." You know, so maybe you glean some sort of nomenclature or system knowledge that might allow you to not be ripped off, or be able to explain to us, my car goes grrr. It doesn't help me. My car makes a metallic sound going over a bump, turning a corner while accelerating, usually sounds like the left side. Hey, I can work with that. That's better. You know, help yourself. You know, it's easier. So.
I've talked to so many professional techs that like online didn't do it for them, because every time they tried to get online and have a serious conversation, if we didn't keep some of the qualifications of who's actually getting into the conversation as to being a professional level, it just becomes inundated with that DIY stuff and they leave. So that's where I really come steadfast with the idea that like there's places for you out there.
Yeah.
In here, this is us. This is, and you know, it's not an elite thing. It's just, I don't want to water it down with that. So that's why, you know, sometimes I jump on other people's things and go, well, my go-to answer is, well, you need to take it to a shop and get it diagnosed there, Scooter, because like it's broke. And that's all the help I'm going to give you. And
yeah.
So,
Scooter.
But I appreciate you.
Yes,
I appreciate our relationship. I think it's, I look forward to everything you post. And I mean, I've learned a lot. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Thank you for being a listener. Anytime you want to chew the fat like this again, let me know. I'd love to have you back. All right, man.
This is my podcast cherry. You broke my podcast cherry.
I can tell you that people are going to be reaching out to you now. Honestly, it will be happening. Every time I do a podcast, I see more coming up. So more people go, I'm going to start a podcast. Anyway, folks, thank you. Hey, if you could do me a favor real quick and like, comment on, and share this episode, I'd really appreciate it. And please, most importantly, set the podcast to automatically download every Tuesday morning. As always, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for their perspectives and expertise, and I hope that you'll please join us again next week on this journey of change. Thank you to my partners in the ASA group and to the Changing the Industry podcast. Remember what I always say, in this industry, you get what you pay for. Here's hoping everyone finds their missing 10mm, and we'll see you all again next time.